after listening to part one, I mean, the whole conversation with Jeremy was pretty interesting. I think obviously I didn't know everything, and we still don't know everything about what happened with Jeremy, but having read all of the comments on social media about it, I was just kind of interested on what you thought about going into the interview, what you thought, and then after listening to Jeremy and, all the other things that have come to light through social media and the comment section and so forth. What's your opinion?
I didn't really go look at what most people said on social media. I needed a few days to decompress and kind of process everything that we heard. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that my theory did change a little bit on Jeremy Mayfield. I think it's, a lot of people, in most stories, you want to look at who was right, who was wrong, who screwed up, who did right. And I think it's possible that everybody did something wrong in this story. I don't know that there was a good guy versus bad guy in this. I think everybody had flaws. It's quite possible that nobody's innocent. Do I think Jeremy Mayfield failed a drug test? Yes. Do I think Jeremy Mayfield has taken methamphetamines in his life? Probably. I don't know. I have no idea. How could we know? I don't know. It's probable. I could say that. It's just an opinion. Do I think Dr. Black is suspicious? Yeah, I do. Do I think Brian France is suspicious? Yeah, I do. I think that it's quite possible that he acted illogically based off of a personal vendetta or just anger because, quite honestly, we've seen it. We've seen it ourselves. He almost suspended you for something you said at Talladega. And we were like, wait a second, suspension? What the heck? When he gets mad about something, it's certainly at that time, it's likely that he has an adverse reaction to it and it will flex. Yeah. And so I think that this was absolutely the case. The one thing I lacked, I'll say this, the one thing I lacked before the interview last week was I didn't understand or I didn't think there was a motive by NASCAR to really ostracize Jeremy Mayfield.
Yeah.
And I also thought the timing was suspicious or it didn't make sense. After the interview, I got that answered. I got a motive. And the timeline makes sense to me. The timeline makes sense to me because ending Jeremy Mayfield when he was still a Dodge driver and an Evernham driver meant that other people were going to suffer the repercussions of that, not just Jeremy. But then when he went independent, the dominoes started falling quickly when he went independent. I don't think that that's a coincidence. And then the motive, Jeremy Mayfield burned just about every bridge he had along the way. In fact, the biggest one happens in today's part 2 interview. I think that what you hear, if you listen to this interview, this is the rise of Jeremy, but you'll start to see things that he did and fess up to saying, I messed up here. I think he started creating situations where people were ready to end they were going to rid themselves of the Mayfield problem. Yeah. I think there was a Mayfield problem and he ended. So I just think that the new drug policy by NASCAR had many holes in it. I don't think it was right. But I also don't think NASCAR would have ever come out and just said, we messed this part up. Mm-hmm. Nope, don't think so. I just think that everybody had flaws in this one.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think that NASCAR was really out to get Jeremy. I think that they believed without question that Jeremy was guilty of failed drug test and that they were right and that he was wrong. And I think that NASCAR was not in the drug policy or drug testing business, right? They were taking advice and direction from those that are or were at the time. And so they're just they're hearing this information from Dr. Black and all these people going, well, this is the experts. This is what they're saying. So we're behind this, right? And so I think that there were some people in the industry, like you mentioned, that were absolutely disgusted with Jeremy Mayfield and just he had done so many things over the more recent times in his Cup career toward the end there that they were over it and angry with him. But I think I don't know that I'm convinced that NASCAR acted unethically in handling the initial part of his drug tests and the failed drug tests and going to court and trying to fight that. I think that they believed in their minds that they were right and that Jeremy was wrong. I don't know that we'll ever know about Jeremy and meth and what he did or didn't do. And I don't know that I even care about that at this point.
Right.
I do think that once Jeremy lost his livelihood and his ability to at a steady income, he had to make some different difficult decisions, some hard decisions. And I think some of those hard decisions put him in some questionable company. And I think that those hard decisions and difficult choices he had to make also brought on the raid and all those other things that happened to him. And that he bears some responsibility for making those decisions, and he brought all that on himself when things got tight, right? And I hope that the Jeremy that we saw, or we see, or we interview, I hope that this Jeremy is beyond all that. But we hear him talking about, well, I don't really know what my next move is, or I'm not doing anything consistent professionally, and I'm trying to look for that next opportunity. So I think that hard decisions are still in his future. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that after everything he's been through, he won't put himself in these scenarios where he has to make the wrong decision to try to squeak one by or try to skirt the system or cut a corner. Yeah. To where he brings more negativity and problems into his life. And so, I think that I think I'm into redemption, second chances, and all those things, underdogs, which he's made himself an underdog after all this, unlikely to rebound type of, that type of deal. And I want to believe that everybody's got good in them, right? Everybody can turn it around, right? And so some people can see the flaws in Jeremy and just say, he's done. I got no time for it. Where I want to believe that, he's going to figure out how to exist, right? Without creating more and more problems for him down the road. Hopefully, he gets a good response from it, and it gives him some confidence moving forward.
I left with a bigger appreciation for Jeremy Mayfield. I really did. I didn't know him, but I thought we got everything that we tended to get out of him, really, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I think it was interesting when you see a guy wearing a uniform and let's look at Jeremy in the middle of his heyday, wearing Ray Abraham's red uniform, walking around. You think that guys like that are in that scenario they've got it made. They are sailing across the sea without a worry in the world. And what we've learned, and I think what this is an example of, is that person you saw on TV and in pictures and during interviews is a flawed person. Yeah. And can, in a scenario, in a bad scenario, when things get tight, make some difficult and bad decisions, some decisions you shouldn't make. And so, nobody's like Jeremy said, he's like, you're one decision away from the bottom. And it was multiple things that sent him to the bottom, but that first decision was the beginning of it, right? And I think that even for someone that was in his situation, it's like, God, how could you do that to yourself, right? And how could you send yourself to the bottom like he did? But it's easier to do than I think a lot of people think.
The craziest thing he said, I told you this afterwards, the craziest thing he said is what you're about to hear today. He said something in today's interview that I was like, what? You did what?
Yeah.
Like, I could not believe what he did.
Yeah.
And I just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting interview. We talk about how he gets his start and then going through his Cup career and a lot. We talk about basically all the bridges that get burned. Anyhow, enjoy part 2 of Jeremy Mayfield. If you like that conversation, you ought to listen to the entire podcast because the Dale Jr. Download is available on all major podcast platforms.